Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing your story. I just want to make everyone aware that Eric Paulson's office did respond to our request to be here, saying that they responded yesterday at 12:30, saying that his schedule did not permit him to attend the event. And 6 minutes ago, while our students from Orono were talking about hiding in a closet so they don't get shot at school, Eric Paulson tweeted, "A fun watch, highlights from the Congressional Hockey Challenge." That is what he is currently doing while we're here. Just FYI. Okay. Moving on. It is my pleasure to welcome Austin Berger, who is from our area but currently is a student at the University of Minnesota and is a student senator-elect.
Hello, friends and family of the 3rd District. My name is Austin Berger, and I'm a student senator-elect at the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities. But more importantly, as of late, I've been a fierce advocate for some common sense gun laws. I helped MC the March for Our Lives at the Minnesota State Capitol with Alex Young Williams and James Farnsworth and countless volunteers. And I'm also pretty sure that I was the only person out of the 18,000 present who thought to bring a bullhorn. I was as surprised as you are. I'm humbled to be here today as your guest and as a man who is deeply passionate about the fight against the epidemic of gun violence in this country. I see some of the same faces in the audience tonight that I saw in the crowd on March 24th at the March for Our Lives, an event that symbolized throughout the state and the broader nation our fighting spirit and resolve to pass sensible gun legislation. The posters that were handed out at the March for Our Lives said it all. Not one more. Not one more life can be lost to this epidemic because our background checks are not enough. Not one more mother can be left inconsolable at the news that her child is not coming home because a disgruntled man was able to get his hands on a military-grade weapon, which he then used to murder innocent young people who had their entire lives ahead of them. Not one more person of color can be disproportionately affected by gun violence due to the leftover vestiges of systemic oppression from the days of Jim Crow and earlier. Not one more. There is no valid reason as to why the state of Minnesota has no restriction on magazine capacities, no requirement to register firearms with the state, and no background checks required for private sales. These 3 items alone should not be controversial for our representatives to support, as they are simple issues of safety and accountability. And last I checked, neither safety nor accountability are inherently partisan concepts. And yet we find ourselves caught in the midst of a polarized era of politics, where elected officials have chosen party over people and the laws they choose to support. People who are against even the most basic gun legislation like to point out from time to time that Democrats sensationalize the issue and get swept up in waves of emotion when it comes to gun violence. They say that students of the Never Again movement are not qualified to speak about this because of our age. To that I say, if you are old enough to get shot, you had better believe you are old enough to have an opinion about being shot. It cannot be denied. We have a serious problem with gun violence in our beautiful nation. But don't take my word for it. Let me read you 6 statistics. Fact, America's gun homicide rate is 25 times higher than Canada, the next developed nation in gun homicides per 100,000 people. Fact, America has 46% of the developed world's population, but is responsible for 82% of the developed world's gun deaths. Fact, Oxford Academic published a review of over 130 gun violence studies that were conducted by a wide variety of research institutions with varying biases. All of them reached the same conclusion. States that passed more stringent firearm legislation reliably saw a significant decrease in all forms of gun violence. Fact, black men make up 14% of America's population, but are victims of more than half of all gun homicides. Fact, 7 children and teens, another fact about the intersection of racial oppression with gun violence. Black men are 13 times more likely to be shot and killed with guns than white men. That is a problem. And the final fact, 7 children and teens are victims of a gun homicide every day in this country. Let that sink in. 7 children a day do not get to go home to the loving embrace of their families, have their first kiss, get their first job, or have a family of their own one day, all because a gun took their life. These are not alternative facts or fake news. This is real, it is happening right now, and we have to put our foot down and say enough is enough. When I met with survivors of the Parkland shooting at the march, I emphasized to them how proud the people of Minnesota were to share with them, even from a distance, the story of the last 38 days. The typical person would only be able to grieve and not much else after something so vile and heinous. And yet, we saw the best in America shine for all the world to see when these students inexplicably rose above their grief and fought to ensure that this does not happen to anyone else ever again, that those 17 lives did not leave this world in vain. The efforts of the NRA to defame and discredit the actions of these young heroes and the movement they started is an offense not only against history, but an offense against humanity. To try and divide and miseducate people on this issue of morality, not politics, is despicable and abhorrent. But it is the politicians who are complicit or acquiesce to the tasteless agenda of the NRA that enable the nationwide stalemate on passing sensible firearm legislation. People who put dollars above the fundamental safety of their constituents have no place serving in government, and Eric Paulson sold out the people of Minnesota's 3rd District for a mere $20,000 in the NRA. Divide that among the 709,906 residents of Minnesota's 3rd Congressional District, that comes out to be a value of less than 3 cents per person. So I ask everyone in this room, do you think your life or the lives of your children are worth less than 3 pennies? We live in trying, perilous times. While the march was a loud and resounding first step for many of us, nothing will come of all our efforts if we do not get ourselves and our peers out to vote in November. Text a friend. Bring it up in casual conversation, because every vote counts, even if you don't think it does. You can text Youth Vote, all one word, to the number 33222 to get a link to the website where you can register to vote in the state of Minnesota. I can say from personal experience that it took me less than 5 minutes to do so. People fought and died so that you could have this unalienable right. Make sure that you and everyone you know exercises it in the upcoming midterm elections. So, as I close, let me ask you to lift your eyes from the fears of today to the hopes of tomorrow, to the advance of sensible gun legislation in this great state and the entire Union of the United States. Beyond ourselves and the obstacles we face now, to the day where our great republic has saved itself from itself once again by empowering young voters to go out and make tangible, real, lasting change, both with regard to and beyond the matter of gun safety. During the time of the Berlin Wall, John Kennedy once said that all free people, wherever they may live, are citizens of Berlin, as a show of solidarity. I would say that in the world of today, in the face of the American gun violence epidemic that has stained our nation with the blood of innocents, that we are all citizens of Parkland, Newtown, and Columbine, and that we will stop at nothing to ensure that this never happens again. Not one more. Thank you.